Hello and welcome to the StartupBREW Fargo podcast. StartupBREW is a weekly event hosted by Emerging Prairie in downtown Fargo, where we believe that entrepreneurship is energized over brews. Each week, we bring entrepreneurs, founders, and innovators together because we believe they succeed when they have access to each other and the community that supports them. This week, we welcomed Matthew Chaussee with Be More Colorful and Patrick Munier with Golden Path Solutions. We're going to kick today off with Matt, who is the CEO and co-founder of Be More Colorful, an interactive media agency focused on creating immersive experiences that help people make better decisions about where they live, learn, work, and play. Let's listen in.
Thank you all of you for taking some time this morning to come and learn a little bit more about what we're doing, get engaged in the community. I love having opportunities like this that Emerging Prairie puts on to be able to really get everyone engaged with what's happening in the startup community in the Fargo area. For those of you that are wondering, yes, I did steal my children's easel. I was confronted about it on the way out the door. And our 6-year-old daughter said, "Where are you going with our easel?" I said, "Well, I just have to take it to go to this presentation in front of people." And our 7-year-old son said, "Oh, I'm a little worried for Dad." And Vivian, our 6-year-old, says, "Oh, you'll do good." And I'm not so sure if that was a vote of confidence as much it was keeping the emphasis on me remembering to bring back her easel. But anyway, my name is Matt Chaussee. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Be More Colorful. We're an immersive media agency who creates interactive experiences that help people make better decisions about where they live, learn, work, and play. I do need to point out Katie Chaussee up there. She is our co-founder and actually majority owner. I report to Katie. Not a lot of people know that, so I just want to make sure that that's out there since she's in the audience here. Interesting story about me and Katie. We actually met our sophomore year in freshman speech class at NDSU, and we quickly bonded over our mutual fear of public speaking. So I drew the short straw, I guess. But anyway, I want to take some time today to kind of talk about our entrepreneurial journey, how we started 5 years ago and how we ended up to where we are right now. So literally 5 years ago, Katie was laid out, not able to move because she had back surgery. We were also looking at houses at the time, and we couldn't decide which ones were the right ones that we wanted to go look at. And she's getting frustrated with this. Why on earth isn't there a solution that allows people to see what these houses are so they can determine, is it worth my time to go visit? And then that switched from, well, let's not look at houses to, she's always been saying, "Hey, Matt, we should start a business together." And she said, "Well, why don't we make this become our business?" So that's where we started. We went ahead and bought a camera kit. We got everything all set up, and we started selling virtual tours for residential real estate. And pretty quickly realized that it's a highly competitive market. It is commodity based, and real estate agents don't really like spending money on things, on marketing of houses. For that type of experience. They're solving that problem in different ways. So we had been focused on a feature set, not a solution to a problem that had been identified. So that started kind of a series of pivots, where then we pivoted a bit and we started working a little bit in the travel and tourism arena. We had we actually created an experience for the Buffalo River Pumpkin Patch. Anybody frequent the pumpkin patch? Yeah. Awesome location out in Glendon, Minnesota. I called up the owner and said, "Hey, I've got this crazy idea. We want to create this virtual tour." He had no idea what I was talking about, but said, "Sure, come on out, take some pictures." We created that experience, and actually he came to when Katie spoke at 1 Million Cups about 4 years ago and said that virtual tour has been the best marketing that we could have done. It increased our visitorship 20 to 30%. Is the only change they made in their marketing. So we were really encouraged by that, and that helped kind of let us know that, hey, there are some really serious problems that we can use this interactive media technology to solve. So we really started focusing in on the travel and tourism arena, and then moving more into economic development. And what we've been doing on the economic development front is creating community virtual tours. And about 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to meet Commissioner Comer, who was Commissioner of the Department of Commerce at the time. And we were actually at a travel and tourism conference, and I pitched this idea to her of, what if we started using immersive media, virtual reality to help increase awareness of jobs in North Dakota? And she said, well, hey, I love the idea. Keep me in the loop. It wasn't much longer after that we actually had I read an article about a Canadian company that was creating virtual reality experiences to promote the Canadian steel industry. And I sent that to Commissioner Comer, and she said, oh, this is great. Why don't you come speak to the Workforce Development Council? That would have been back in June of 2019. So we came, we did that talk, and immediately from that talk, we had Don Schilling. Anybody know Don with General Equipment and Supplies? Amazing community workforce development person. And Jason Ellert with the North Dakota Building Trades Unions. They both came up to me after that meeting and said, we need something like this because we don't have a way to show kids what it's like to be on a construction site or working on an excavator. These are things that are inaccessible, even in the best of times when we're not dealing with a global pandemic. It's tough to get kids into those scenarios because there's other barriers, physical barriers, safety barriers, time and financial barriers. So we knew that we were really onto something. We started moving forward with that idea, and originally, we applied to be accepted into the Innovate ND program, and we were accepted. We started progressing through the phases. Our initial idea was that we would have a traveling set of headsets that would go around the state and be used by educators. And as we got into talking about our solution to the problem, talking with employers and educators, we realized the logistics of shipping a set of headsets all around the state were really limiting our reach and our impact. So we decided, boy, we need to pivot again. Back to the drawing board. Let's look at what was successful in the past, thinking about things like the Buffalo River Pumpkin Patch, some of the other travel and tourism experiences that we've created. Visiting with educators about what are you actually using in the classroom. It's tablets and smartboards and projectors and computer labs. So we said, well, why are we trying to push new technology? We were pushing a feature over a benefit. The benefits that we really need to be focused on are being able to have more immersive and more engaging experiences about available careers with kids in the classroom through really compelling and interactive visuals. So what we ended up doing is continuing to work through, okay, what do these experiences look like? We've progressed through Innovate ND. We came up with a rough mock-up of what a career experience looks like, actually creating interactive job shadow experiences where kids can see that full day in the life of what's it like to be a diesel mechanic, from arriving to work to getting your job orders to packing up your truck to actually working in the field. And that really started resonating with both educators, with employers, with economic developers. So we knew we were really onto something there. And when it got really exciting was when we brought the idea up to North Dakota Career and Technical Education. We actually had been visiting pretty extensively with Wade Sick, the director of CTE for North Dakota. And we asked, hey, Wade, is there an opportunity for us to work together? Wade ended up, said, hey, we've got some Perkins V Innovation Grant funds. If you can find some schools to partner, we may be able to move forward on this. So Williston and Devil's Lake both applied for Perkins V Innovation Grant funds and were approved. So I'm excited to announce that as of today, we are launching CareerView XR, which is an extended reality career exploration website. It has a variety of high demand careers where you can go and explore, and the neat thing about it is it works on any device. Part of our engagement with Career and Technical Education is that all CTE counselors around the state will have access to all of the experiences for the entire year. The idea there is driving up that viewer base so that we can approach more employers who are trying to approach the question of how do I get our facility, our experiences into the schools. This is really a career exploration platform. It allows for immersive and engaging opportunities for kids to do things like see what it's like on top of a wind turbine or inside the emergency room. There's a whole story behind that. If someone wants to ask about it, I know I'm kind of getting close to the end on time here. But we're really, really excited to be doing this. It is a passion project for both Katie and myself. And we're just so excited to be able to be working in a community that's supportive of us. We've actually grown our team since January of this year. We've grown 300%. We have 4 amazing employees. We have Lana, what do we pseudo employee? Consultants, yes. We have consultants that are essentially family. I mean, they're just amazing friends and partners in everything that we're doing, and we're just so blessed to be in a community like this. So I know that I'm kind of, how are we doing on time, Nathan? Getting there? Okay. So I can geek out about this for hours, but I guess I just want to end with just thanking all of you for being here. Every single person here, just for showing up today, for, if you've liked a post of ours on Facebook or shared it, or even just said, hey, I'd love to see what you're doing. All of those things have really contributed to our success. So I just want to thank everyone in the community for helping us get to where we are. And we're super excited to see where we're able to take this. One last thing I want to mention before I'm done. We're actually filming this, my talk, in virtual reality. So if you see that camera right next to Drew, you want to point that one out. I'm filming it. I have an uncle in Bismarck who has MS, and he really wanted to be able to come and see one of these things. So I want everyone to look at that camera and wave and say, hey, Uncle Dan. Hey, Uncle Dan. He's going to love that. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Next up, we heard from Patrick. Patrick is the founder and CEO of Golden Path Solutions, a North Dakota startup that has built a platform called Compass to help students prepare for the future and connect them with employers who need them for their future workforce. Let's listen in to learn more.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay? Cool. I just want to say first, it sucks presenting with Matt, because every time Matt presents, he has virtual reality goggles, he's got easels, he's got cameras, and I got nothing. First time you brought an easel. So first of all, it's great to be here with StartupBREW. I knew I was going to do that. Our first presentation with this group was back in September of 2018, where I think Golden Path at that time was really a prototype. And in that audience, we had Commissioner Comer, that Matt mentioned, and also Dr. Richmond from NDSCS randomly showed up there. Didn't really know what the topic was for the day, but they were able to speak with us afterwards. And honestly, that gave us energy that got us really to where we are today, including a lot of people in the crowd that have been supportive of us. So it's great to be here. I wish I could get here more, and thank you all for coming. My name again is Patrick Minear, CEO of Golden Path Solutions. I'm here with my colleague, Lauren. And essentially, if you haven't heard about what we do, we are trying to help students and employers plan for the future, like Nathan mentioned. We have built an application called Compass that we are rolling out in high schools across the state. We are currently in about 40 schools. And essentially what happens is students enter information about the classes they're in and what they like, activities, their hobbies, and also their personality. And we use that data to give them career suggestions. At the same time, we work with employers to figure out what are their future workforce needs. These could be entry-level jobs. It could be really innovative jobs that require a unique educational background. We basically interview people that are in those roles and build profiles, and then we put that in our application, and that gets shared with those students. So basically, students can learn about local opportunities. We can even match students with employers and create agreements where an employer might help pay for a student's education in exchange for a work agreement when that student graduates. So really, we're trying to help. At the end of the day, our goal is student has a job that they love, that aligns to their skills. They don't have to worry about debt. They have a job waiting for them. For the employer, they've got a workforce that's ready, that knows what they need to know, that can be productive on day one. And then foundationally, how do we get schools in this mix? So we've built some application or some tools for counselors that helps them connect with employers, that helps them have conversations with students and kind of manage this process too. So it's been fantastic. We've got, like I said, about 40 schools across the state that are licensed for Compass, including some in Minnesota. So we're starting to expand there. We have about 25 employers that are on board with Compass today. Everything from manufacturers like Steffes Solutions just signed up out in Dickinson. Gate City Bank, we just put our first profile for them into Compass this week. Microsoft, Corber, Sanford Health has been a great partner for us. So we really think that this kind of model can apply to any kind of industry and really any kind of company. We are starting to explore additional features working with the state of North Dakota around work-based learning concepts. So for maybe a smaller employee that can't afford a sponsorship, or maybe they don't have a lot of positions where they can kind of reserve them for students, can we give them a way to provide opportunities to students, a job shadow, a visit, maybe participating in a career fair? Can we help get those types of employers connected to students in a way that works for them economically? those are some of the things that we're thinking about. Also, we are introducing some new features that are going to make the application a little bit more engaging for students. Basically gamification, progress, like how far along am I in terms of creating my profile? Am I getting matched with employers? And then finally, like making the application work on mobile. We just hired an intern from NDSU who's been helping us with that, and he's been doing a great job for us. So lots of cool things going on in terms of our progress moving forward. Whenever I present at A Million Cups, one of the things that they always talk about is, what is it that you need from this community? And I think we have benefited so much from the entrepreneurial kind of framework that Fargo has going for it. We've been, I think this is maybe our third Million Cups, or in StartupBREW now. We presented at Million Cups out in Bismarck, down in Minneapolis. This one is by far one of the best. It's the most well attended. It's tons of people here. The people up at the NDSU Tech Park, Paul Smith, Vern with Innovate ND have been huge supporters of us. In fact, as I sit here, Matt and Chris and Lauren and I were in a boot camp back in 2018 where we were just starting on this journey, all of us at the same time. And what's really exciting is the fact that we can actually say that we're going to integrate with Matt's Be More Colorful solution in our application for those profiles that actually have a VR experience for them. We'll be able to provide links to students that'll take them directly into the application. And Chris, with your Enlight platform, we've had many conversations about how do those two things work together. So I think this community and the size, and even North Dakota in general, the fact that kind of everybody kind of knows each other a little bit allows us to do some really innovative things. Scott with NDSU, or now Jamestown, just some of the conversations that we can have. It's been fantastic. So, I think as we move forward, we hope to share some interesting announcements, hopefully in the next few weeks. I remember our friend Ray Berry, if you guys know Ray Berry with Omnibite Technologies. One time he showed up at A Million Cups and announced that he was hiring like 15 people. That was just kind of like, that was his big news. We hope to share news like that soon about bringing additional people on board for Golden Path. And I think, our ask to you is when we get to that point, you can learn about us on goldenpath.net. You can learn about us on Facebook, on LinkedIn. But basically what we want is people that are exciting, that are full of energy, but that are also able to communicate with the different audiences that we work with. Because our audiences, it's a complex business. We work with students, we work with employers, and we work with schools. And all three of those audiences have different needs. They have different ways of communicating and different ways of engaging. And so what we are looking for are people that can kind of work well with all those different audiences or those different personas. It's actually been a really fun journey. I think Lauren and I talk a lot about how lucky we are. We get to go from speaking to a bunch of students at Beach, North Dakota, to then talking and getting a tour of TMI out in Dickinson, then working with Microsoft engineers to find out what they do, and then working with people at the state level. And I just think it's just interesting. It's just really cool how much passion all these people have around what they do. And if we can help bring people together and create this ecosystem in this community, then that's goodness. And that's kind of our goal. So I think we'll have time for questions. So I'll stop there and thank you all for coming, and thanks everybody for the support that you've given us. It's been fantastic.
After the presentation, we jumped into a live Q&A session with the audience, joined by our host, Nathan Marcotte from the Grand Farm team. Let's listen in.
We'll invite Matt back up to the stage here, and we'll jump into our Q&A time. But just as a reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand, or you can tweet them in at StartupBREWFAR, and I'll read them off for you. But maybe to kick us off, what is one thing that you're most proud of in this last year, Patrick?
What we're most proud of, we've gotten, I think I'm really proud of the momentum that we've built. Like I said, we've got a lot of schools that are on board. We've got a lot of employers that are interested in what we're doing. We were able to sign an agreement with 2 regional areas of the state of North Dakota. So the Great Northwest region, which includes Williston, Watford City, about 22 schools up in that area, and then the NESC region, which includes Devil's Lake and a bunch of schools in that area. And the fact that we got such a large commitment from those regions and those schools is pretty cool. But then also with the work that we've been doing with employers, we know that there's a need here. And you hear a lot about workforce development and how everybody is looking for talent and they're looking for workers. And I think that is probably one of the things that we feel like we're in the right spot. I think what we need to do is we need to figure out how to accelerate that work and really help maybe offer even different solutions for employers that maybe are looking for that long-term talent, but also that short-term need that they've got. And I think that'll be, so getting to where we are, that's been a huge achievement for us, but I think now getting to the next level is going to be our biggest focus.
And Matt, what about you? What are you most proud of in the last year?
Boy, in the last year, there have been a lot of changes in the last year. In the last year, we've gone from a husband and wife, mom and pop VR shop, to now we've got 4 employees, so a team of 6, and we've got rock star employees. They are just doing amazing things, and it's so nice to be able to have that support and that help internally within our team. It's gotten to us to a point where we're able to launch a product and a website today. We're super excited about that. I'm from a business side, I'm probably most proud of that, and knowing that what we've created is something based on solutions, questions and answers that we've received from people who are actually using the solution. We're not throwing technology at people and saying, look at how cool it is. We made that mistake when we started. We weren't going to do that again. Now we've developed a solution that is really focused on solving that career awareness problem by creating immersive solutions that allow people to engage in more constructive and accurate conversations about what high demand careers in North Dakota actually are. So a lot of things to be proud of. I suppose one of the big personal ones is when we started up the business, we went all in. We sold our house, moved into an apartment because we knew we had limited finances, limited time to spend on upkeeping a house, that kind of thing. We just bought a new house in Fargo a little over a month ago, so that's pretty exciting too.
Well, congratulations to both of you. Lots of achievements. But now we'll open it up. If any of you have questions, raise your hand and shout them out. So I have a question. So for both of you, on your platform, you kind of have 2 different audiences. You have the student side, and then you also kind of have the career employer side. So what would be your advice and hope for those 2 groups when they're using your platforms?
I think for us, one of the things that I think one of the challenges that we have, and I'm sure any of you in the audience that are dealing with students, one of the challenges we have is how do you get students engaged in this exploration? Not all students are thinking about what's going to happen 2-3 years from now. Some students are thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think for us, what we really want to make sure is that the experiences that students are having in the app, and even how they're learning about careers, whether it be a profile that we're building, which is basically something that they would read or consume online, or an experience that you're building. How do we make those compelling that students want to engage in those things and learn? And then for employers, how do we help them understand that this is the audience that you need to get in front of? When we talk to certain employers, there are some employers that are I don't really know if I need to market to students. They're we really need somebody tomorrow. And that's completely legit. If you need somebody tomorrow to be your expert developer or whatever, we're probably not the solution for that. But if you want to build a pipeline for the future, if you want the students that today might be juniors and seniors to be going to your company 4 or 5 years from now and basically applying for jobs, you need to be engaging with them today. And I think that is something that a lot of people are starting to understand, and especially at the state level, understanding how do we do a better job getting employers connected with schools and with students. Our hope is that they're all kind of learning from each other, they're all engaged. We always talk about the fact that one of the things that we're offering is an engaged ecosystem of students, employers, and schools. If that's happening, then we're being successful. But we need to make sure that there's value for each of those audiences in terms of what we're building.
Yeah, and I'd echo that as well. It's really an exercise in communicating what's the value to both sides of this. We initially ran into kind of this huge chicken or the egg problem, right? Because we need to create experiences, and that costs money. We need to create those experiences so that our audience, which is career counselors, educators, and students, can view those experiences, but we need the audience viewing those experiences to be able to convince employers that it's worthwhile to fund creating those experiences. So that's why we've been so blessed to have the support of career and technical education in the Perkins V Innovation Grant funds that came through to create this springboard of content that started as 12 experiences, but now has grown into, so we're launching 12 experiences in the next couple weeks. We've got another 12 experiences that we're going to be launching in the next 1 to 2 months. And our goal is to have another 12 experiences by the end of this year. So we're looking at exponential growth of everything that we're creating. And with that exponential growth, the library becomes larger, which makes it more valuable to students. There's more students and teachers using that more valuable library, so it's easier to have talks with employers about how we can get them into the schools. Another big portion of this is, while our initial focus is that CTE audience, high school and middle school students, the experiences we're creating, you don't just press play. It is a choose your own adventure. So each one of these experiences, if a third grade teacher wants to show her class or his class what it's like on top of a wind turbine or inside the emergency room or inside the patrol car, they can do that. And it's something that since it's not directed, it's not something you just click play on and watch, it's something you're interacting with, they can actively in real time respond to the class's questions about, what is this career and why is it important? And the whole focus of this being providing those earlier and more diverse opportunities for exploring careers that kids would never have an opportunity to see until it's almost too late to make that choice.
Fantastic. Scott.
I'm curious for Patrick, with government, I understand their motivation. When you're pitching a business, how do you kind of position it? Are they saving money on recruitment costs? Are they, because they're giving scholarship basically, right? And then also their time.
Yep.
There's some kind of time element they have to commit. So how do you kind of position that for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so we actually do a business case. So the question was, if we're talking to an employer, how do we talk to them about the value of going down this path of potentially offering a sponsorship or helping pay for students' tuition versus the traditional model of recruiting and hiring? So some of the research that we've done, the cost of recruiting is super high. So essentially, when you decide that you want an employee, first of all, you have to write the job description. You have to start working with your HR, your recruiting team to start getting things on board. Usually it takes about a month or two to collect candidates and to interview candidates, which takes time from all the different people in the interview chain. You get that person hired, and it takes, potentially, I think we've seen data that says anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half for that person to get trained on the things that they need to know and maybe to unlearn some things that they've learned that don't apply to your company. So when you add all that together and you really look at it from a long-term perspective, it's expensive to hire a new employee. And then you have attrition. So you might go through that whole process and then that person leaves. So when we talk to employers, we try to talk about if you can get connected with that student earlier in the process and partner together on that education path and maybe internships. We had one student that's at NDSCS that just finished up working a summer job with the company that's sponsoring him. When that student graduates, they're going to know what they need to know, hopefully on day one. They're going to have the right background, the right education. They might be going to a school that you as an employer partner with on curriculum. And basically that increase in productivity. So when they start, they're productive. That work agreement that you've got with that student that is gonna, work agreements are always, we have to be careful because there can always be something that happens. But for the most part, a student's gonna commit to working for a company for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever that work agreement is. So that attrition risk goes away. So the long-term business model is actually far better when you look at this kind of sponsorship program. But it is a longer-term conversation. It's not like a 1 year thing. It's like a 3, 4, 5 year thing. And so we are trying to figure out how do we communicate that more effectively to employers. But the employers that are doing this kind of work already, they get it and they understand the value of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's jump up to John.
Patrick, with the sponsorships you were just talking about, if you can you give a couple an example or two of maybe the type of job and maybe the company and maybe where they're getting the education sponsored?
Yep. So the question is, can give an example of the types of companies that are offering sponsorships and the programs that they're going to. And so what we're finding is a lot of the companies that are interested in sponsorships, the two industries that, if you were to ask me, which seem the most excited about this, it's manufacturing and healthcare. they seem to be the ones that are the most interested in this because there's such a huge demand for people in both of those industries. Manufacturing, there's just not as many students are going into those fields. So when I say manufacturing, think machining, welding, fabrication, even electronics, mechatronics, mechanics, that sort of thing. And then in healthcare, it's nursing, it's surge techs, it's radiology technicians. So those are the companies that seem to be the most willing to offer sponsorships. And one of the things we're also finding is it's the two-year schools that are sometimes easier to partner with when it comes to tailoring curriculum specific to an employer's needs. And you mentioned Don Schilling with General Equipment, and I mentioned Dr. Richmond at NDSCS. That's an example of a perfect partnership between an employer and a school that uses the Komatsu program to help train students that are actually going to work at General Equipment, working on equipment and on Komatsu machines. So I think those are the areas where we see the most success and the most interest in sponsorships. We're trying to also help other industries understand that this model works for them too for certain types of roles. And if anybody's interested, we actually have personas of the types of companies that we think would benefit the most from sponsorships if you're looking for entry level versus if you're looking for something that's more advanced. Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick. And we'll have time for one more audience question. Dana, do you really want this one?
So both of your experiences, it occurs to me that they might have application outside of the state of North Dakota. North Dakota has a very low unemployment rate, but we probably need to attract workers from other places. Do you have any efforts to kind of promote your platforms outside of the state?
So to repeat the question for our virtual audiences, what efforts do you have to kind of promote your work outside of the state of North Dakota?
So yes, absolutely. We're starting in North Dakota because, and Patrick kind of alluded to it, but it's an amazing community to be able to get connected. We have so much industry and opportunity to be able to capture here that what we're doing is we're running our pilot project right now with North Dakota educators. We have actually already had conversations with Montana Career Information Systems and Minnesota Career Information Systems, as well as the University of Oregon, who runs a career information systems platform for 13 other states. So our long-term goal for this is to build up as many North Dakota experiences as we can. And while they're not direct recruitment experiences, as we build up that library, as we're creating them, we're mentioning all of these North Dakota companies, the communities where these companies are created. And if other states want to use that content, well, guess what? It's all North Dakota, well, majority North Dakota companies that are featured. So we do have plans for that. It's not to say we wouldn't create in other areas of the state, but if we can really get this to catch hold in North Dakota and create all of these experiences that educators are excited about, we will absolutely be pushing that library out to neighboring states to start. But I would love to be working directly with Commerce on figuring out where else should we try to get these experiences and these opportunities. There's tons of potential on that front, but again, it's that chicken or the egg, right? We have 24 experiences now. We probably need 100 to 200 experiences before there are going to be other school districts outside of North Dakota that are really going to want to use those. But our goal is to be there within the next year to year and a half. And we've got a great team in place, and I think we've got a good opportunity to do that. So hopefully that answers your question from our perspective.
Yeah, and I think for us, we absolutely believe that this is a need everywhere. So we've always had in the back of our mind, let's start in North Dakota, let's start in Minnesota, and then let's expand. Some of the companies we're working with, so Bobcat has a factory in Litchfield, and they need welders. So how do we help them, and then also how do we create connections in Litchfield, Minnesota, with that school district? Same thing with Sanford. Sanford is like all over in North Dakota and Minnesota and South Dakota. So there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg factor for us too. Like for us to be relevant to one audience, we want to already maybe have a footprint with another one. Like a school might say, well, what employers in the area are you working with before the school would come on board? And then likewise, an employer might say, well, are you in front of the schools in Bemidji? Before they sign on. So I think that's something that we need to tackle with probably resourcing and just awareness. North Dakota has been really easy because there's like one person that we can talk to, like Wade Sick, you mentioned about CTE, and is a really great connection point. That doesn't exist as much in Minnesota. we haven't found centralized people like that. So it's a little bit more of a challenge. It's more of a school by school basis. But to be honest, we probably need to spend a little bit more time, kind of looking for those centralized people. But yeah, we absolutely think we want to be bigger than just North Dakota. Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick. And like you mentioned, we always end on one final question. We're gathered here as a community to support our entrepreneurs. So what is one thing all of us in the audience can do today to help energize and support both of your work? Matt, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I guess I would start by saying, when we started CareerView, we started with this idea that we're going to create these immersive job shadow experiences. And that's what we've created our first 12 job shadow experiences. They've got, you can spend anywhere from 5 to 40 plus minutes in these experiences with interviews and videos showing people performing their trade and hot spots that you can spin the scenes around and look for. And as we started creating those and talking with educators and employers, we realized, we need a bigger product lineup. We need that. The job shadow is kind of the top end, full day in the life, but there's an opportunity here to just create smaller work environment type experiences that maybe a smaller company wants to show off their fabrication lab, but they don't have the resources to be able to fund a full job shadow experience. That's where we created work environments, and we've actually already gotten the first 12 work environments funded. So that's where I'm talking about 12 job shadows. The next 12 are work environments. Somewhere to bridge the gap are these experiences that are not a single scene showing someone in their trade, and it's not a full day in the life. It's what are the amazing facilities that we have in the state. So we are launching a field trips product as well under the CareerView umbrella, and we only have one of those right now. So what we really need to do if we're going to get to this 3 dozen experiences by the end of this year, we need more connections to those places that want to get their facility in front of students. We've got an audience of 30,000 students across the state, so if you know of employers who want to show off their facilities, we would love to visit with them about partnership opportunities and how they can sponsor and bring their location into the classroom across the state.
Yeah, I would say 3 things: advocacy, ideation, and resourcing. So advocacy is what you all have been doing for us already, and it's been amazing. So I look in the audience, and I've already mentioned, the experiences we've had with Matt and Chris and Scott and different folks. Nick from Moorhead Business Association, John from the EDC, and Paul from Small. You guys all were instrumental in giving us great feedback and helping us figure out how to navigate certain things. And that's what I love about this community. So keeping that going. Ideation, just sharing ideas in this group is amazing. In fact, when you were talking about field trip, I'm like, field trip, work-based learning, we haven't talked about that yet. So finding different ways of how do we make our solutions work together, or different concepts that we haven't thought of yet. And then resourcing, like I said earlier, at some point we are going to bring on resources that are going to help us grow this thing. And so reaching out to this community, finding that person that that is super energetic, that is really great at connecting people that we might not know about or we may never have met, being able to share with this group. We're looking for this kind of person, and it's kind of a needle in a haystack type of person, and you all helping us find those amazing resources that eventually can contribute to this effort that we're trying to drive. So I would say those are the things that we want from you all, and you've done great so far providing that to us.
Well, thank you so much to both of you. Let's give them a big round of applause.
That's all we have for this week's StartupBREW Fargo. Thanks for listening in. StartupBREW Fargo is energized by Emerging Prairie, an organization dedicated to connecting and celebrating the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We'd also like to thank the following sponsors for their support: Pro Resources, Brady Mertz, the FMCVB, Office Sign Company, Fargo Parks, and MidCo. See you next time.